Hello, this is going to be week 3 of CSM, and in this video we'll be going over the fourth question of the higher order functions section of the worksheet. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so we want to write a function, whole sum, which takes in an integer n. It returns another function, which takes in an integer and returns true if the digits of that integer sum to n and false otherwise. Taking a look at the doc tests, we can see that this argument that's being passed in, 777, if you add 3 sevens together, you get 21, and that returns true. But this next example, we have a string of ones and zeros, which add up to 5, and that isn't going to add up, that doesn't equal 142, so it returns false. Cool. So if we want to start this code and fill in the blanks, you might be wondering, what's the best way to get started? What's the best way to approach this? And for this question in particular, I would start with looking at what you're passing in as an argument and also what you're outputting. So we're taking in an integer, n, and you want to output a function. And while you look at that, we define a function inside this code here. So this is the function that we want to return. So that kind of clues you in on this last return statement that we want to return check. Cool. That being said, now how do we actually approach the problem? Well, a way to think of this is taking one of these numbers right here. Let's say for this one, for example, how do we get the sum of each digit? How do we get each digit, add it to a sum, and return it? If you're thinking of these math expressions or math operations, one thing that comes to mind is mod. That helps us isolate one of the last digits of whatever gets passed in here. And the double slash, which is floative. And so yeah, these are very common operations when dealing with problems that want you to look at each individual digit. So yeah, with those in mind, how can we kind of fit that way of thinking into these lines of code? Well, we want to keep track of a sum, right? So before we even tackle this while loop, what do we want to get done first? Well, we want to have a variable that stores us adding the digits together. So total equals 0. Cool. So the while loop, how do we know when we have reached the end of the problem? Using floor div and mod. The way I can think of it is that we go until x is no longer equal to 0. So while x is greater than 0, we want to do this chunk of code. And this is because when we floor div, eventually we're going to get to a point where we have nothing to floor div, and that would just signal the end of the problem. So as I was saying earlier in the video, we want to take the last digit of the argument that gets passed in and add it to the total. So this last variable kind of hints at us using the modulo operator to get the last digit. So last is equal to x mod 10. And if you don't remember, mod is this thing where mod takes the remainder of whatever whatever two numbers that you're dividing. So let's say we had 540 mod 10. Well, this is a bad example, but it would return 0 just because it is divisible by 10. If we had a better example, that's like 12. 12 divided by 10 is equal to 2. As you can see, 2 is this last digit right here. And to explain why we chose 10, it's because we want to just move one space at a time, adding the digits together slowly. So yeah, that's why we do mod 10. And now moving on from that, we have now kept track of the last digit of the argument that we pass in. And what exactly do we want to do? Here we want to update the x variable. So It doesn't really matter like which for these two lines if you like switch them, but we can try uh setting. Actually, let's try it the other way first. Uh, so we have the total. We want to add total plus equals last, and that kind of just deals with us having to add all the digits together. And after that, we want to do something to x so that we are not in a infinite loop. In an infinite loop. So yeah, what do we want to do to x? Well, we just want to get rid of the last digit. So in that case, we would just do x floor div 10. Oh, and we want to set that equal to x. So yeah, don't forget to do that. Nice. And at that point, the last thing to do is going to iterate through all the digits, add all the digits together, and at that point, you're done. So what we end up wanting to return is total, just because that is where we store our.
Hello, yes, real quick. This is me after watching this video back. Uh, kind of forgot that we needed to return a true or false value. So for that return statement with for the return statement that has total, if you want to return total equals n, because we want to check to see if it is the sum or if the sum is equal to n. So yeah, just forget about that. But yes, that is all.
Addition. So yeah, that's pretty much it to this problem. Hopefully that helped. And yeah,